Well. Fool, I did that twice now. I did that the first time. I was up and I was standing up and then I sat down on my chair. Oh my god. Fool. I know y'all see this video. I know y'all seen what I was just watching. I want to leave a fucking like on that. Philosophy of oral sex. The school of life are wildin', bro. But I was just reading these comments and I was fucking rolling, bro. He said, "You guys made a blowjob sound like a reaffirmation of worth as a human being." God damn, that was good. He said, Lane has an extensive vocabulary and an encyclopedic lexicography. In short, he is a cunning linguist. I don't know where I've heard that before, but I've heard that somewhere before. And then I was just, this one got to me. He said, "I can't believe I just watched the philosophy of blowjobs. I feel sophisticated as fuck." And I'm like, yes, I feel the same way, bro. I feel the same way. But that is not what this video is about. I just wanted to start that off with like a light note. This video is about the machine, following the video I just made about the Matrix, which I thought it was fitting, you know. I already watched this like 3 times. I'm willing to watch it even another time. Where I want to react to it because, of course, Vsauce videos. I've yet to cover a Vsauce video on this channel, but that's because I almost wish I could watch them over and over again, like for the first time. Because honestly, before I ever even thought Vsauce is the reason I ever even, considered making a channel like this where I reacted to such videos. A completely predictable future is already in the past. Has it ever struck you that all life is all a memory except for the one present moment that goes by you so quickly that you can hardly catch it going? I'm glad you're second because especially was chained to bar. Look, like I was saying, Vsauce is a bit of the driving force, right? A big sort of reason for why I started doing these videos. And that's why I kind of want to add I want to add some Vsauce videos here and there, but I've practically seen all of them. At least the ones that seem more interesting to me. Maybe the more math related ones I've only ever watched maybe once. I think there's probably a video here and there that I never watched, but I've watched most of them. Most Vsauce videos. Of course, to watch them, with spaced repetition, if I see them again, a lot of that info should be good. I should be able to stick to my brain very well, especially if I get a good night's sleep. That would be ideal. But today we have Pursuit of Wonder, the Machine, a thought experiment that changes your life. And enough of the intro, let's go.
This video is sponsored by the data skills learning platform, DataCamp. Use the link in the description to try the first chapter of any course for free. Lawrence worked his whole life for this moment. He had experienced countless ups and downs, endured days, weeks, months, and sometimes even years of continuous self-doubt, hardship, sacrifice, uncertainty, and all the rest. But now, here he was, finally tasting the fruits of his labor as they squeezed out from the very core of his life. The day was August 12th, 2142. Lawrence had just received a standing ovation for a talk he gave at the world's most popular and respected biannual conference, at which the greatest thinkers, writers, leaders, and innovators of all sorts came both virtually or in person to give one of their life's greatest presentations, laying bare the accumulation of their mind on a stage scrutinized by the entire intellectual community and general public at large. The conference was streamed and distributed live across every virtual reality, augmented reality, and general streaming platform across the world. Following his flawless talk, both Lawrence and the audience knew what they had just experienced. A beautiful and successful encapsulation of a life's work that would likely impact the way people thought about human cognition, values, morality, and well-being forever. Lawrence had spent the majority of his adult life pursuing psychology, more specifically, theoretical neuropsychology. Throughout his life, he had this intense compulsion to understand, with total and complete objectivity, the nature and state of optimal well-being, or rather, what he would go on to term psychological worthiness, the most suitable, ideal, social, and personal conditions to provide the individual with the greatest subjective, qualitative conscious experience of their life.
Objectively
He had spent
doing
the
so.
vast majority of his 20s and 30s experimenting, researching, learning, and failing, developing a variety of insights and theories along the way. Up until more recently, now in his late 40s, his work had mostly gone unnoticed. But for some
As they usually
inexplicable
do,
reason,
yes.
Lawrence always had this strange sense that he was on the right track, that somehow everything was supposed to work this way.
And there's a different video he made talking about this, where a guy, he works his entire life for his passion, his art. Never really ever gets any recognition. He never makes a Van Gogh. He never makes a Picasso. Sells like a art piece for millions and millions of dollars. And it's like, if he got that type of recognition, that's when the whole entire world would accept him as being successful, right? Like that's what we think. Um, but he developed this sort of like thought experiment, which is like, is this man less successful because he never really sold any like serious painting? Like he never sold a painting. Like he did sell maybe like a couple, I think. He sold maybe a few. But never for any like substantial amount of money. And is it just because of that he was unsuccessful? But like people would I was seeing people in the comment sections, and what they took from it is the man is successful because he lived and died doing what he really believed in, doing what he really wanted to do, doing what he was passionate about. He lived and died. Whether he became rich off of it, whether he was acknowledged, whether he became noteworthy during his lifetime, whether he became like a social influence, an influencer, he had much, whether he had power, money, fame, success, whatever you want to call it, people would argue that he is successful just because he never gave up and he kept trying. And it's like we have to really redefine and sort of, like question, like sort of like evaluate, how do we define success? And what does that mean for us? Like in the, in the like rigid, very conservative sense, like, okay, maybe in the dictionary, if you go off of just a very set, like very defined sense of the word, sure, maybe he was not successful, but a lot of people would argue he was, man, even if he never sold anything.
He always felt a deep, genuine connection and enjoyment in his work.
That's good, you
even
should.
when it would traditionally be considered rather miserable. He also always seemed
Well,
to find himself falling
I
into
think you're
situations
successful,
of
my G.
great unforeseen luck just before hitting a wall or before things got too bad or unmanageable. And now, most importantly, he was being proven right. His work finally and actually clicking into place.
Oh, that's
bringing
good.
him
That's
right into
ideal.
that destination of
That's
limelight
ideal that you do
and
get the
giving him
recognition.
everything he ever wanted. In this moment of the conference, it felt like he had truly touched the ultimate state of life's worthiness, the very premise of his life's work. Throughout the remaining 3 nights of the conference following Lawrence's talk, he was approached by a large number of people, both general and virtual attendees, as well as other speakers. They asked him all sorts of questions. Many attempted to rub his shoulder well enough to become involved in his work or get him involved in theirs. Women of all sorts approached and hit on him, which he politely had to decline, pointing to his wife with him each time and revealing a flawlessly attractive woman who,
Okay.
by all physical standards, was in an entirely other league.
Oh
He
my
entertained
god, look at her.
everyone
Look
as
at
much
this
as necessary.
man, bro. Of course he's successful. And she stuck with him all along, too, even without the success. She's a ride or die. She's the one. Man, come on. She's a 10 out of 10, and she stuck with him? Well, even at his lowest, when he was struggling to pay rent? Come on, my G. You got it like that, boy. You better not fumble that bag. So, she has some assets, too, bro. On God. Now back to philosophy. Let's go.
Necessary to remain polite, but mostly tried to get out of the majority of the interactions as quick as possible. One individual in particular, however, was extremely interesting to Lawrence. When he saw the man at the convention center bar one of the nights and recognized him as one of the first speakers of the conference, Lawrence actually hoped to get an opportunity to speak with him. The man was mysterious, with something noticeably distinct and almost separate about him. He fit the sort of super genius or science fiction hero archetype, or perhaps supervillain, seemingly always dressed in all black with strange straight-down hair, an unusual amount of bionic body augmentations, and wearing all the latest technologies, almost like he was trying too hard to fit in but was a few decades too early. this man had given a similarly impactful talk on a new, groundbreaking brain-computer technology 2 days prior to Lawrence's talk.
Not Neuralink?
Lawrence found it to be the most ambitious, interesting, and curious talk of the entire conference so far. The man was essentially proposing and announcing a soon-to-be publicly available technology which, if it did what he said, would basically be the type of innovation that defines and separates an entire period of history from all the prior. He had termed the technology New Life Technology and was the founder of the company being built around it. The company was set to basically offer people the option to opt out of their lives. After completely selecting, defining, and more or less programming the conditions of their desired experience of life,
Out of their
users
lives.
would then step into cryogenic chambers, have electrodes implanted into their brain that would communicate brain signals, continuously stimulating neural patterns and perceptual states, and ultimately simulating an entirely new, different life for the remainder of the user's biological life. The machines would also nullify the user's previous memories in the process, replacing them with newly encoded false ones to match with their desired storylines, experiences, and conditions. Lastly, the user would be
Am I the
plugged
only
in-
one that thinks that if you could do that, just like not eternally, just like not until you die? But if I could step in there for like 1 or 2 days and I could be like doing some crazy shit, like some wild ass shit, like some fun shit. Like, tell me you wouldn't do that. Like, tell me you wouldn't do that. Like, come on. I mean, sounds sick. Just not until I die, though.
to a separate program connected to a quantum supercomputer that created populations of artificially intelligent beings who could then be interacted with within the simulation in a manner that would be arguably equivalent to interacting with biological human minds. Previously, in its slightly earlier forms, the technology had been used exclusively for individuals with serious physical or mental ailments, like body paralysis, comas, unresolvable depression, trauma, or worse. In these cases, it was considered by most to be ethically permissible, although, for many, even here, it was still certainly debatable. However, it was federally approved in most countries, which was enough. Now, however, this particular neuroscientist and technologist's premise was to allow ordinary, otherwise healthy people to use the technology. This was met by both worldwide support and worldwide contempt. The understandably large primary sticking point with the technology was that it essentially couldn't, at least not easily, be reversed or exited from, since once inside, the user wouldn't know that they were inside anything. And if it was set to be cut short, the effects of coming out could pose serious mental risks when trying to readjust back. As a
Oh, that is true.
result, currently, users would essentially be required to willingly and fully opt out of their own life until the end of their life. Part of what the man was giving a talk about was the risks compared to the benefits of such a choice, and how for some, if not many, it would still, for good reasons, actually be the preferable option. Lawrence found the entire premise of the man's talk to be somewhere between completely fascinating and completely nonsensical. In a lot of ways, it contradicted his own talk and key theories of well-being and human values. When the man approached Lawrence at the bar on the fourth night of the conference, Lawrence was excited to engage in a discussion with him. He had several questions, criticisms, and some hope that perhaps the seeds of a potential collaboration or debate could be planted for the future. The two congratulated each other first, then discussed each other's talks for a little while, then moved on to other, broader philosophical topics, and then finally narrowed back in on the New Life technology and its implications. They started fairly lighthearted, but as a few more beers were poured and emptied, the intensity increased. Lawrence argued not about the ethics of
Just
what
kept
the man
getting
was
drunk?
doing, but the philosophical problem with what it presumed, that consumers would and should desire to leave their life for a fake, virtual one, even if their own life was relatively bad and the new life could be anything they wanted. Lawrence argued that people want and should want to know and live in reality more than they want and should want to live in what is purely pleasurable, easy,
So he's saying he's gonna plug them into the Matrix. Of course, what I'm saying is like, yeah, of course I'd find it a little bit. Do I think the idea is attractive if I could get pulled out without any complications? Sorry, of course. There's no complications in plugging me out. I would 100% go in there. I would fuck shit up. Maybe bag a few baddies, right? You have your ideal women. You have 10 of them, right? And then you just have lots of sex. Or you can fly. Or you're the king of the world. or whatever, right? Just think of if you can stimulate like a lot of pleasure, I'm guessing. A lot of things that make you happy, it could be pleasure, it could be whatever. If you can stimulate a lot of that and there's no problems getting me out, then sure, I'll sign up. But like, other than that, yes, it's true. Like, you can't be in there forever. You're entering the matrix. You're being Cypher. Anybody who enters becomes Cypher. We just learned about this in the last video.
And designed to one's
And
preference.
then that way, you're not living in reality. You're living in a fake reality. And it's just like, is there anything more important or valuable than living in reality? It's just like, I don't know. I don't think so. I would argue no. I'd argue you have to live in reality. You should, otherwise you're a slave to a system. Otherwise you're a slave to this thing. But it's just like, it's just like, sure, you're gonna enjoy your shit, but like, are you gonna be able to change the world though? Are you gonna be able to become significant, important? Are you gonna, like, that's a super selfish move if you want to do that. If you want to go back into the matrix like that, because it's just like, well, you're gonna live in a false reality. But you might just enjoy that a lot. Of course, it's a selfish move, but it's just like, it's I mean, like, it depends on what you're gonna be able to do in there. I would argue it's very understandable. I mean, what can I do? Can I really bag 10 shorties in there? Am I in control? Can I just have fun in it? Like, foo.
We value the true form of things over the mere pleasure of what things can give us. The uncertainties and ups and downs of life are important, essential even. The negatives as much as the positives. In most cases, it's the difficulty, scariness, and unpleasantness a part of things that allows the experience of things to ultimately become meaningful or worthwhile, or perhaps even capable of being experienced at all, Lawrence said to the man. The man had plenty of counter-arguments, of course, suggesting that if one felt that life was best lived with ups and downs, they could just program that in. It need not be pure pleasure, Lawrence. I don't disagree with you on that point, but that doesn't discredit the technology. I'm not suggesting that people plug into a purely blissful experience of life if a purely blissful experience of life is not desirable, but I am suggesting plugging into a purely desirable life, the man replied. Yes, but people still want what is real. There are entirely separate...
Yeah, and then you'll get bored. Like, you can't have it for more than a bit. Like, it only works temporarily, that type of technology. Because then otherwise, if you're feeling nothing but pleasure, you have nothing to contrast it with. You break the yin and the yang, right? Now you're having nothing but yin, and then there's no yang, and then it's like yin loses its value. It's just like there's no light without darkness, and darkness loses its value if there's nothing but light, right? It's just like, ooh, you need to have something that's not pleasure for pleasure to feel as good as pleasure does. If you have nothing but constant pleasure, then you just get bored of it, and then it becomes not pleasure. Just became pleasurable for that bit of time. And then after that, you're gonna get bored. You're gonna be like, nah, I don't want this shit. It's like the dream. It's like the whole dream speech that Alan Watts gave. You'll dream 70 years of time in one sitting. And one night you'll dream 70 years of time, and then you'll be like, wow, that was fun. And then you keep having a few more of those, few more 70 years of time in one day of dreaming. And then all of a sudden you're gonna come to a time where you're gonna be like, well, okay, let's turn up the risk a little bit, right? Let's get risky. Let's have a dream where I'm not in control. Let's have a dream where I don't know what's gonna happen, right? It's just how it happens. You need to not have pleasure for something to feel pleasurable. Like, if you program in nothing but pleasure, it's gonna lose its value quickly. You're stuck in there forever. So,
factors relevant to human experience beyond the actual feeling of experiences. Humans want to earn their way to pleasure, to reward, to meaning. They want to be and do within truth, even if it's painful or hard. Perhaps even if it's only painful and hard with no reward. If it's simply engineered, chosen, or predetermined at the beginning, it's undesirable, and most won't do it. And they shouldn't. Lawrence went on with, why not? The man asked with fairly sturdy confidence. Aren't you merely assuming the position that knowing truth will provide the most desirable experience of life? Or greatest well-being, or whatever else you called it. I forget what term you used in your work. In any case, it isn't truth in and of itself that you're actually arguing for there, but the underlying desire for a preferred state that truth will give you. Worthiness. Lawrence quickly interjected, a preferred state that truth will give you.
In any case, it isn't the truth in itself that you're actually arguing for there, but the underlying desire for a preferred state that the truth will give you. So the state that the truth will give you, that's really what you're arguing for there, is that underlying desire for that state. Yes. Okay. I see.
Worthiness. Lawrence quickly interjected to confirm his preferred terminology. Okay, worthiness. The man picked back up. Let's assume that if that term serves as an umbrella term for a life maximized to its highest degree of positive personal value, then it would not merely be a life defined by the most pleasure or least pain, nor the most truth or least illusion, but rather the most optimal experience of life in total, regardless. Sure, Lawrence interjected with hesitancy. Then would not the difference between life's maximal worthiness and life's minimal worthiness only be a matter
Okay,
of
sorry, these guys are going crazy right
Regardless.
now. Then it would not be merely it would not merely be a life defined by the most pleasure or the least pain, nor the most truth or at least illusion, but rather the most optimal experience in life in total, regardless. In total, regardless. Then, oh, okay, so that's there's a comma there. Then it would not merely be a life defined by pleasure. Okay. What? Okay, regardless. Yes.
Sure, Lawrence interjected with hesitancy. Then would not the difference between life's maximal worthiness and life's minimal worthiness only be a matter of one's experience of it being so?
Then would not only the difference between life's maximal worthiness, I mean, if you're talking subjectively, yes, it would just be the experience of it being so. I mean, it's subjective. I don't think we're talking objectively here, like you're saying pretty obvious things. Then would not the difference between life's maximal worthiness and life's minimal worthiness? Well, yeah, it depends on what the subjective person, determines worthiness to be. How they define worthiness, what it is to them, what they value. Nice and yeah, it would be a matter of experience of it being so, or
Perhaps more accurately, the experience of their believing it to be.
their experience of their believing it to be. Well, if you believe something, it means you do not know that it's true. I think it'd be better if you were seeking the truth. I don't know. I don't know about that one. That was a little bit iffy.
Yes, but Lawrence jumped in before quickly being cut back off. And if so, then any and all subset qualities that maximize this condition, this state, could all be set up to perfection within our machines, concluded the man. A little thrown off now, Lawrence replied, without even having to look any further into that argument, I would still say that you're missing the most important part. It isn't real. The people aren't real, the history and effects on the course of reality are not real, none of it's real, and that's fundamental. The man paused, nodded while smiling with clenched lips, and then asked Lawrence with a noticeable tinge of sarcasm, so then you don't want to do it? Lawrence let out a small laugh while smiling and rolling his eyes with a reciprocated note of sarcasm. We could really use you, the man added. I think a mind like yours could help us both inside and outside. Your ideas are really what's probably missing. I'm not supposed to share this, but we've already started short-term trials where people have gone in for short windows of time and come back out just fine. I'd love to see if there was maybe an opportunity there if you were ever interested. Look, I don't personally see anything ethically wrong with any of it, Lawrence interrupted. But I think you're wrong to assume, one, that people will want it, and two, that they should be convinced that they do. I like this life. It hasn't been easy, but it's real. So, no, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to pass. Okay, the man said with a final, accepting head nod. After a noticeably long pause of silence between the two, the man turned back to Lawrence and said, Then would you like to exit this one? Another shorter pause followed this. The bar? Lawrence replied with a short, confused laugh underneath his words. The man turned more straight on towards Lawrence and took off his augmented reality glasses. Then he said, Lawrence, you're going to have to try to bear with me here, but you are currently in a new life machine. The man paused again to let Lawrence process the information and reply. Lawrence did not successfully do either, but could only laugh, believing with certainty that the man was just joking or messing with him. I know this is hard, the man went on with. It always is. But this, right now, is actually an exit checkpoint inside a new life machine. You came up with the whole thing. One of the cleverest ones we've seen yet, I might add. You essentially came up with and scripted this entire conversation as a method of gauging your own interest in continuing or leaving without revealing to yourself that you're in anything prior to you declaring to a bot, myself, with sufficient certainty that you are no longer interested in the idea of being in here. And it seems to me that you just stated that. Another brief pause hung between them. You also planned on your own reasonable skepticism here, so... The man put his AR glasses back on and swiped his hand a couple times in relation to them. The entire bar, all the other people, objects, everything turned pure white. Lawrence began to sink into the truth of what was happening, or rather, sort of not happening. If you tell me that you would prefer to leave this reality, which is in fact a simulation, and return to whom you were before in base reality, I can send an alert signal that will trigger a cease to the simulation right now. But I'm the only one who can do this, Lawrence, and this is the only checkpoint you currently have. You have a little time to think about it right now, but if you say no, I go away, and this memory is erased, and that's almost certainly the end of any way out. Lawrence, now petrified, began to noticeably and physically panic. The man grabbed Lawrence by both his shoulders and calmed him down. Once he was calmed down enough, Lawrence quickly asked, what was before? The man looked through a display of VR files only visible to him through his glasses. Then he said, before was similar in the overall fundamental sense. You were, well, sort of still are, an aspiring psychologist, especially interested in neuropsychology. But you are, beginning to get somewhat old, in your mid-hundreds now. You are still unsuccessful, at least in your view, and lacking the intellectual abilities to measure up to your dreams of becoming a leading thinker or theorist in this field. You were alone romantically and lower middle class. Again, that's all according to your own self-approved report. Lawrence looked down at his lap in indescribable shock. Then he looked back up. Why? He admitted. The man motioned a quick swipe of his hand again and then said, it was your dream to do what you did here at this conference. You wanted to be a leading thinker, an important, successful, revolutionary neuropsychologist. Yeah, a real one, Lawrence quickly interjected. The man paused and looked more directly at him. You are a real one. Another brief pause hung in the air while Lawrence tried to make sense of this ridiculous-seeming comment. Many years ago...
I mean, reality is what you make of it. But it's just like, that's not the reality he's talking about, though. Like, it's not subjective reality. He wants subjectively people... He wants that reality, right? He wants the reality that other people can know that he's successful. Not just him in this fake world with fake AIs and bots that are just only meant to replicate real people to know and take him and believe him to be successful and whatever, right? He wants the real thing. He's talking about not no simulated shit. He's talking about, you know what I mean. Sure, we might need to redefine what reality is or whatever, or what the physical world is about, right? But like, hey.
So, you
Not what it's about,
volunteered
but, like,
as
the
an
word
early
physical.
trial member to help develop this technology. So far, you've helped reveal and map cognitive changes before, during, and after. And most importantly, provide real data and evidence on how to best set up psychological and neurological conditions. You're helping build a library of reliable experiences and states to be selected from for future users. Your findings in here are real. They have and will help people you know and don't know, remember and can't remember. And Lawrence, is there really any reason to believe that an experience is less valuable if it isn't real, if one cannot know the difference? Another very long pause sat between the two. So, the man said, would you like to stay or leave?
Wow. If you do not know, is there a difference? If you do not know if it's real or fake. That's deep. What did he say? I'm guessing he's not gonna tell me because he always leaves these videos open ended.
This video was sponsored by DataCamp.
Oh,
data
you
science-
fucking bitch. He always leaves it like that. We don't know if he said yes or no. He's just trying to figure out if this was reality or dream. He goes to his children without knowing what happens to the time. Well, yeah, but it becomes a paradox where it's just like I have this sense that people are overcomplicating things. If you genuinely don't know if people are real, like, okay, sure. I mean, all anybody has ever existed in should be. I don't know because I haven't lived forever. I don't know if the history even really happened. I don't know much. I don't know much of anything. Subjectively, you can only know so much, right? But you have to have a sense of reality. You have to have a like what that comment said, a totem. You have to have this sort of like memory kind of does that for you, right? Like you obviously change a lot over time. You're not the same person you were 10 years ago, not physically, not mentally, not in a lot of ways. Cells are constantly dying, being replaced. I mean, look, it's the truth. We change a lot, and the only thing that is like constant is that there's like a sense of consistency in ourselves is the memories, right? And a lot of times it can be the people that we know. I mean, they look different. I mean, but they'll still have the same professions. We'll still live in the same house. The house overall doesn't change much, right? I mean, you can rearrange things, but it's still the same house, still in the same place relative to other things, right? Like you're just like, okay, this is my house. I am welcome here. So I'm still the same person that I was a year ago. I still have these same family members. I still have these same friends. I am me. And every time I go to sleep and I wake up, I know that I am always myself because I have never gone to sleep and woken up and being anybody else. I have never just completely had a day where I had completely different parents or friends. So I know that and I have my memories, right? Some of them may be a little blurry. Maybe I don't remember some as much. Maybe I may be forgetting some. My memory and all that good. But there is sort of this sense of consistency in your being. So with that, that's how you know, like, that's your reality, right? And to really, I think like there's this way that I can't word what it is, but to have to question if your reality is reality when this reality is all anybody has pretty much ever known, right? We understand we have simulations now. We have VR glasses. We're doing the Neuralink thing. Like we're actually doing the Neuralink thing. It's crazy. Like we do what we said we were gonna do in sci-fi movies. It's crazy. It's just like how did we know? It's just like we're actually pretty good at being able to like what do you call it? Like use data and statistics to predict things and to see patterns and to see like rates of change and advancements in technology. Like, fool, we're making Neuralink, and it's just like where are we going to keep going, like, but as I was trying to say, yeah, temprano. Okay, yo me voy temprano. Okay, good night, mom. But anyway, um I think it's this is I don't know the right word to use. I don't know if there's even one that's applicable from the English dictionary, but I think it's super unnecessary to have to question whether this reality is real, whether all the people you know are AIs, because you're sort of referencing. You have to that it becomes like dissonance in itself. No, like a sort of dissonance, a reality dissonance, right? Like, of course, there's temporal illusions. There's optical illusions. There's a lot of illusions that sometimes your senses take an input. Your perception isn't perfect, but it's really good. And sometimes there is illusions and shit. Um, but I mean, this is what's real though. Like, why should we have to question that? Why do people question that? Just because we make simulations? No, that's just because we're taking materials that were always here on Earth, and we're just so good at putting things together that look at what we're creating. creating really cool things out of materials that are already here. So it's not really that much of a surprise to me in a weird way that I can see high quality image through a screen. Of course, I think that the science and the technical stuff behind it, I think it's mind blowing. But it's just like, yeah, I can see how. I can see how we can do that. I can 100% see how we do that. Like a camera, like cameras are so cool. We're capturing a moment in time. You're capturing a moment in time that's never gonna be here again. Look at videos and cameras. Like, fuck. That's so crazy, but I mean, we're just doing this with materials that are always here. So we can, for some weird reason, it's like, it's cool. No, for some reason, I think that it's like understandable that this is reality. And I don't ever struggle with feeling like we're in a simulation. Like, I think people jump the gun on the simulation theory. Like they think just because look at the rate of advancement, look at Unreal Engine 5, right? Look at what the video games are creating. Look at the simulations. Look at the metaverse, right? Look at where we're going, right? Of course, yes, we're building some really realistic looking simulations. That doesn't have to directly have to be linked to this idea or this questioning of your own reality, right? I don't think it has to be linked to you having to then go and be like, fuck, what if I'm seeing these Sims, or I'm playing the Sims, I'm seeing all these AIs, I'm seeing this fake world. Why do I have to then go and sort of think about that from my point of view? Like why do I have to go and question my own reality? Like, you should know your reality. Your reality is your experience with your memories, right? If we were in a simulation, I'm sorry, but this is all the reality you know. This is the real. This is all that's real. I don't even really care. I don't think, should we care if we're in a simulation or not? I don't care. Because there's no way to get out if we were. So I don't really give a fuck. Like, this is all we're here to do. We're only ever brought up in this simulation. If it, like, I'm talking if it was a simulation, which is not, right? In my opinion, I'm pretty sure people. My physics teacher told me people used lasers to prove that we're not in a reality. They did this experiment, but I'm not really like necessarily convinced that we're not because of that. But I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't think so. Like, you have to keep a sense of consistency, right? I think not even just for your own well being, or for for you not fucking just freaking the fuck out, but also just because, like, I don't know, I'm not very good at wording this because this is a very complex idea to explain why I think people shouldn't question if we're in a simulation or not. Like, I think he's tripping. I think, like, no, I don't think anybody's AI. I don't think I'm the only one conscious here. I think I'm somebody that has, like, that is very conscious. Of course, I question things. I'm somebody that's curious, and I have knowledge now. I have a decent, nothing really, but decent compared to maybe some other people around my age, knowledge, right? Um, and it's like, how do I even go about, like, putting that into words, man? Like, that we just shouldn't even question that. For some reason, I just feel like we shouldn't question it. Of course, there's nothing that we should or necessarily shouldn't do. It's all relative to something. Okay, are you trying to limit pain? Okay, so you shouldn't do this. Are you trying to do this? Okay, then you should do this. But it's just like unrelative to nothing, like objectively, maybe empirically. Like, we don't have to do anything. But I don't think it's like out of the question. It's almost like flat earthers. It's just like, no, right? It's just like flat earthers. Like, you got to realize this is reality. Of course, if I wasn't a simulation, I wouldn't know it. This would be a very good fucking simulation, but this is all I know. This is my reality. I don't give a fuck. This is a reality within a reality. I don't think that just because it's a reality within a reality, if I'm conscious and sentient, I don't care if I'm in a if I'm in, like, one of these computers. I mean, I already told you in the last video that the universe itself is like a big ass computer. We're computers, and the universe is just making more and more and more complex computers, just like we are, and we're creating super complex computers. So if I was in one of these, I don't think it'd make a difference. I would say I'd be even more real than this reality. I wouldn't say if I'm in a computer and conscious and sentient that, like, sure, humans would call me a bot, But if I was actually like conscious and super complex within one of these computers, if that was possible, I'd be super real, even if I was in them, because I am technically in a computer right now. Right? I'm technically in a simulation right now. I mean, just not in the like concert like very specific like mm, like definition of the word simulation, but it's a simulation nonetheless. It's just not like a like beings made simulation. That's what I know. Don't ask me how I know. Fuck you. But I know that we're not like there's not some beings outside of this that just simply programmed a simulation. No, I think it itself is a simulation that it is the simulation. It's not a simulation created by anything. It is the ultimate origin of simulation, right? And it's like a computer. It's like a system. Computer is a little bit of a weird word to use, but it's a system that creates even more complex systems, like I said. And we're doing that in amazing speed. I mean, just look at how long we've been around compared to the age of the universe, and look at what we've been able to create in such a little amount of time. I mean, 500 years compared to 13 billion years. Just imagine what the super intelligent robots are going to do. They're going to create even more intelligent versions of themselves and fix whatever we did in about maybe like 3 microseconds after they come online. So I mean, just think about what we're really doing here, and we're just going to keep creating more and more complex things. That's really all we're here to do. But also there's just we get to choose a lot of things while we're here. You know, we get to experience a lot of things and have fun with things. We're not just here to just simply be here to try to advance humanity. Like, that's not the only thing, but that is the overarching theme of it all, right? It is there. But you know, we also like other things. We also do other things, and we enjoy other things. We can get into other things, right? We're not all into just computing and creating computers or like technology. Like some people are into plants, and that has its place too. Everything has its place. Can be into whatever they're into. That's totally acceptable. You have that ability. But even if you're in one of these computers, like you're just in a simulation, just like I am right now. You're just in one that was created by humans. But that's fine. Your reality's still your reality as long as you don't know. I mean, he's right. As long as you don't know anything else, what the fuck's the difference? Like, there really isn't any. Like, you're just as real as I am. You're just in that computer. I am in this one. I am in this system. You're in that system. But if you're complex like me, if you can think, you're sentient, you're conscious, it don't really matter. Like, people aren't AIs. They aren't just AIs how we think of it. I think it's stupid. But that's my take on it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that video, man. The Machine, a thought experiment that changes your life. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys want me to react to in the comment section for the next video, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Yes, sir.